once again. Thank you all for joining us each and every week. Of course, this is Nuance, and I'm Mike Scala, joined by Jay Carter, also known as Timid, the hip-hop artist in the chair of BLM Tokyo. We're joined, of course, as well by Sheba Abraham from the League of Women Voters. And we have a very special guest this week. We've got the mayor-elect of Poughkeepsie. In fact, she will become the first Black woman ever to be mayor of Poughkeepsie. So a history-making moment. Yvonne Flowers. Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to join you.
Yes, so let's talk about it. Let's get right into it. The vigors of a campaign. We are no strangers to that, having run in elections ourselves. How was that like, running first in the Democratic primary? Were you met with resistance from the usual suspects? Any institutions, unions, party officials who tried to convince you not to run in the first place?
Yeah, well, the thing is that I'm on a city council, and I was on there for about 6 years. Right. So there were individuals that came forward and asked me if I would run for mayor. So I had a team of individuals that would help me and assist me through that process. So of course, didn't know there was going to be that many people who were going to step forward in the Democratic Party to run in the primary. Mm-hmm. So that was an interesting campaign. Because at that point now, everybody's kind of going in their neutral corners and trying to figure out who they're going to support. So you pretty much are kind of running around in your own little circles, trying to campaign. And of course, everybody's looking at it like, trying to fight for those Democratic voters. So it was, and that was the first time I've ever had to go through that process before. And this is the first time I ever had a citywide race. Because in the council, it's only for a particular ward. Yeah. So we're talking about trying to gain the votes of, maybe 1,600 people versus for a citywide where we're talking about at least almost 10,000 people. So it was an interesting experience. And you got to know who was really in your corner and who, decided that they didn't want to support you.
Yeah, I've heard that before. I heard that you don't really know who your friends are until you run for office.
Right. And sometimes, too, people don't do it because they're personally against you. Sure. It might be because they're actually in favor of what the other person's going to do, or it kind of aligns with their personal agenda.
Right.
So you got to try not to take it personally, because I found that to be the, true moving forward, going into the general election where like, well, why are you here to help me when you were against me in the primary? And now it's like, well, you were the chosen person in the primary. Now we want to come behind you and support you going moving forward. So I had to understand that part of it a little bit better.
And it's important not to lose sight of the fact that in public service, at the end of the day, our job is to serve the public. And so you have to try to put those personal differences aside, or political differences aside even, and say, okay, that was the campaign, but then it's time to get down to work for everyone, right? Whether you voted for me or not, voted me or not.
Right.
So, and that could be difficult depending on how the others conducted themselves during that campaign.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because during my primary campaign, during that election, it wasn't, there were some negative attacks, on my character and of who I am. And so, of course, moving forward, when certain individuals come to you like, well, you just got finished saying I was not the right candidate, and now you're saying I am the right candidate. Make up your mind.
Well, so I did want to ask you about one of the candidates in the primary because he was the interim mayor, right? And yes. He has noted in the media, at least, that he would be interested in continuing to serve in the administration. So I just want to ask, what is your relationship with him like now?
I have a good relationship with him. I mean, he was our former city administrator, so I worked very closely with him as a council member because he dealt with the day-to-day operations. So we've built a pretty good relationship, and so it was kind of weird the fact that we were running against each other in the primary. And then once he lost the primary, and I was moving forward as the Democratic candidate in the general election, he did express that he would like to stay on as the city administrator. If I won the mayor seat, and if I would consider it, and of course I said, that's something I have to consider moving forward. But in the meanwhile, he did get a job offering that would bring him closer to his family. He has new grandchildren.
Okay.
So he decided that he was going to take that position, and it brings him closer to where he originally came from in Connecticut.
Oh, so, very nice. So it worked out for him.
Yeah, it did. It really did.
All right, so moving on to the general election now. So for those who don't know, the mayor's seat in Poughkeepsie was previously held by a Republican for several years, right? Then he was
Yeah,
elected to the state Senate, vacated the seat. That's why you had that interim mayor. Of course,
right.
Yvonne Flowers won as a Democrat, and by quite a big margin as well. I think I saw on election night you're up by 35 points. So there was a big swing there. So my question was, what is to account for the dramatic shift in Poughkeepsie politics to go from a Republican held seat to such a strong Democratic win?
I think there was different factors that were involved in that. When I ran for the city council, I was registered as an independent, in the Independence Party. So, in the beginning, the Democrats didn't allow me to run on their line, even though our Independence Party had supported Democrats in the past. So what happened is that I ended up going to the Republicans and asked, so can I run on your line? Because I was determined that I was going to get in there because we were really going through some tough challenges in the fifth ward, to the point where I was watching my investment and watching my neighborhood basically go down the drain. So they allowed me to run on their line. So for a couple of years, I worked with Republicans. They didn't, they didn't have to campaign for me or anything, but they did give me any resources that I might need in order to run on my line. And I didn't have to change who I was. And everyone understood that my main goal is about serving Poughkeepsie, not about any particular party. And so from the beginning, my motto was Poughkeepsie before politics. And that was 12 years ago when I first ran my city council race. So what happened is that after my first term, I lost the seat because, again, it started getting political to the point where, wait a minute, no one bothered me when I campaigned the first time because they said there's no way no way that a person run on a Republican line is going to win in a Democratic ward. So when it happened, it was like, oh, wait a minute, we need to flip that seat back to Democrat. And I was like, okay, but I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. So what happened is that other people got involved and people started to notice my interactions with different people. Didn't matter what party. I need to work with whoever I'm going to work with that's going to help our city grow. So I've always done that throughout the years. As I won council races, lost council races, I still stayed in contact with people who are Republicans and Democrats. And, as I moved forward and working in the community, I worked with both parties, with all parties, because that's what we did in Independence Party. We worked with no matter what party affiliations you were. So when I moved forward to run as mayor, they realized that, I'm a person first to represent all people and not just any particular party. And people are ready for a change and want to put these differences aside and want us to focus on what's really causing our problems in our city. And so that's who they were ready for. And I think it just happens to come about that I am a registered Democrat at this point now because the Independence Party lost their status on the ballot.
Right.
So I had to pick or choose which party I was going to register as. And I decided to register as a Democrat.
Okay, well, that's a testament to the voters of Poughkeepsie, I think, to be able to identify that and not just blindly vote along party lines. And so you were someone who was working with the people regardless of party, and it seemed like they put people in Poughkeepsie over politics as well.
Right. And I think, too, it also comes down to my dad, John Flowers, who worked in the community. And he was that type of person that he didn't care who you were, what party affiliation, what culture you're from, that he just looked at the city as one city and that, and worked in the community to help all people. Right. And so I worked alongside with him for decades. So people have already seen some of the work that I've done out in the community and felt like this is the time to put someone forward who is not looking at any type of political agenda, but more on what's best for Poughkeepsie. And I think that's what they've shown when it came out to vote.
I think we also have talked about some of the difference between that there's a common ground between the two parties, and generally there's it's just kind of the way it's talked about. A lot of times people want the same goal, but they talk about it in different ways, or they go about it in different ways. But if there's a way to kind of bridge that gap, it's actually a pretty good thing. And you mentioned that you were looking to work towards Poughkeepsie, like it's one city, everyone works towards the same thing. At the same time, we do know like there are definitely differences, disproportionate differences. Being the first Black woman in and being a Black woman, period, you are aware of those things. So how do you deal with? How are you looking to deal with those types of things?
Um, it's not going to be easy. There are some people who are going to challenge me because even because of the color of my skin, they feel like I shouldn't really be in that position. So I have to really align myself with people who have that common goal. And I think I'm doing that as best that I can, and not allow those people who are going to try to bring that divide in our city to have a strong voice. And like I said, align myself more with those who have that common goal that we work together as a united city. And I think we would do that, especially through the city council, because in the past we have, had issues where the city council and the mayor did not always agree, and they seemed to go on different paths. And there was a lot of infighting going on to a certain point. So I think just, this year, in the beginning and the start of this all, I decided I wanted to be sworn in with the council members so we can show as a government entity that we're working together from day one. We are going to have differences. We're not always going to agree. But the thing is that the underlining goal here is to make sure that we have respect for each other and understand that we do have a common goal to make Poughkeepsie better, but we just have to find the best path and get into that point. So it's just basically not allowing those people who have that negativity and who decided they want to try to continue that divide to have a strong voice within our government.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right now, the biggest issue perhaps facing the mayor of New York City is the migrant crisis. And my question
Right.
is, what extent do you see that affecting Poughkeepsie, and what role are you looking to play in that?
Well, right now, what our county executive have gotten involved in that because I guess there have been individuals that were sent to Dutchess County. So they have went to court and they have done with the litigations with that. WAR services, in order to provide a place for the migrant workers or even our homeless population, comes through the county. So I would continue to work with the county to ensure that, one, that we have the services that are involved, but also to ensure that people understand that our resources are limited. And that, if we're not going to be working together as we're providing these services for individuals, that you're only going to cause more of a problem for our city. So I will make sure that I have that strong voice at the table, and no matter what platform, whether it's on the federal or state level, when it comes down to, receiving and taking in individuals that need our additional help. And to make sure that it doesn't put on an additional burden on the population that we're already trying to serve, that are going through the same kind of challenges.
Absolutely. So I know you have to go in a few minutes, so I wanted to close out by asking, what do you see, or what do you want to be your legacy as mayor of Poughkeepsie? When Yvonne Flowers leaves office, how does she want to be remembered as the number one thing that you achieved for the city?
What I want to see, and this is what I want to see in the next 4 years, the legacy of seeing our waterfront develop, seeing our kids having better education and support services so that we're building stronger families in the city of Poughkeepsie. I want to look back and see a lot of our kids who right now who are going through this, feeling hopeless and want to leave Poughkeepsie, that in 4 years to see them say, I can't wait to build a house in Poughkeepsie, or I can't wait to, work in our school district and help, the next generation. So it's basically, I want to, sit back and look and say that I did everything I possibly can to help make Poughkeepsie a safer and better place to live.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Sheba, did you have any questions?
No, I don't. I don't have any questions, but I say thank you so much, Yvonne, for agreeing to come on and speak with us.
Yep. Well, thank you again for inviting me.
Absolutely.
And I think we are immortalized together in that news photograph,
Yeah,
right?
that was nice.
Yeah.
Yes, you are. I was waving at you.
Yeah, I saw it, and it got captured in the photograph, so that was really cool. Yeah, I'll say the first time I went to Poughkeepsie was at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center. I went to see Nas perform in like '98 or so. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
that was a big trip for me at the time. I was pretty young back then, but it's a beautiful venue up there.
Yes. Well, we'll look forward to you coming and visit us again.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, and congratulations. We can't wait to see
Yeah.
you achieve
Thank you.
up at Poughkeepsie. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you so much. And the swearing in is January 2nd, 1 o'clock at the Poughkeepsie High School.
There you go.
Yeah,
All
the same
right.
high school that I graduated from.
That's
True
awesome.
pioneer.
All right. Thank you. Have a great night.
Congratulations.
All
Have
right,
a good night.
Bye-bye.
All right,
Good
good
night.
night.